My name is Jennifer de Coste, and today I am in Dartmouth, Nova Scotia, Canada. And where I am from, I am my mother's daughter, for sure. I have her face. She has my grandmother's face. We are almost interchangeable. It's my people are from Antigonish, Nova Scotia, and have been for many generations. And that's very important to me to know that lineage and to connect in with kind of where what my family has learned as they've gone through has definitely kind of passed down in terms of direction setting for my own path and for my life. So my people are deeply rooted here in Nova Scotia. So aligned with kind of a family connection. A number of it's only been a year and a half now. I started an organization called Schoolhouse, which is a cooperative nonprofit here in Nova Scotia. And it started as a little idea that was in the back of my brain, one where we were looking at ways to make use of our space in our home to welcoming community, knowing that we had purchased a home that was on unceded Mi'kmaq territory, and there had been no conversation with lawyers or mortgage brokers or anybody about personal responsibility to the use of our space, the use of this land, and our responsibility to that. My husband and I were talking about ways in which we might be able to make use of this property in alignment with the truth and reconciliation work that's happening in Canada. And what we came up with was the idea of hosting a folk school in our home. And that's what kind of led to Life Schoolhouse. And Life Schoolhouse is a network of folk schools across Nova Scotia where people like us are making use of their residential space, making a space available to people within the community who want to come and teach different classes, different folk skills, things that they may have learned the hard way, they may have learned from their parents, they may have learned through formal education, but things that they know and that they're willing to share. The thing that's unique about Life Schoolhouse is that it's actually done in a barter-based environment. So we charge nothing for the use of our space, intending to make use of the space for our community. And the people who teach the classes will come and teach anything from carpentry to canning classes to gardening skills to preserving to fermentation. And we've done painting classes and stand-up improv comedy, and we've done knitting circles, and you name it. We've done more than 70 plus classes in the last 18 months. And the people who teach these classes are just members of our community who have skills to share. And the skills that they are sharing, they're offering at no charge as well. But the people who are attending these classes are bringing bartered items to gift to those facilitators for the exchange of their knowledge. So it harkens back to the people schools that were a part of the Antigonish movement, linked to the growth of the extension department at St. FX. Actually, the idea had been that entire communities can heal themselves by sharing their knowledge and being in this together, and that those meetings don't need to be anything more formal than a gathering around a kitchen table. So we've been doing this, like I said, now for about 18 months. Within the first 3 offerings, our biggest challenge became the fact that we can't fit in as many people as would like to participate in these classes. So typically we will post a class when someone suggests that they have a topic that they're interested in sharing. We're going to get together and we're going to learn about smoking bacon. Then we'll post that online, and all of the classes fill within 3 to 4 minutes. It doesn't matter if we posted at 10 o'clock at night or 10 o'clock in the morning. They are a quick grab. And I think what we realize is that the reason for the grab, and it doesn't seem to matter what class we're offering, it actually has very little to do with the education, and more so to do with people trying to find time to connect with other humans, really find time to be in conversation with each other, to be in deep kind of connection, a different kind of connection, and learning as a platform for that type of deep connection has been really successful. And so we're now looking at this initiative as a wonderful way to address the health and mental health impacts of social isolation, which is experienced pretty significantly in our, especially in our rural communities. So very quickly, our living room space that was available for classes of any nature became too small, and that's what birthed the network. So we now have 12 other venues where people have called and said, hey, this is a great idea. Can you help me get started? And they're popping up all over the province of Nova Scotia. And my work now is more so in supporting those hosts in getting their projects started. And they are individually hosting people in their homes, facilitators and participants, and helping address this challenge of social isolation that's popping up all over the province, and particularly in rural areas. So that's kind of our expansion over the last 18 months. Well, actually, it just starts with an expression of interest. So, for instance, I had a call last week from a couple of people actually who are interested in sharing their space in Pictou County in New Glasgow. And it was just, this is brilliant. How do I get more of this in my community? Because we're really, we're looking for something like this, and we didn't even know we needed it until we found you. So it's just an expression of interest. They call. We have a guidebook that's available on our website at schoolhouse.com, and it's a startup guidebook for hosts. So it can be something as simple as take a flip through there and see if there are kind of natural inclinations towards hosting, and if there is interest, then it's a conversation, and I'm actively involved in a startup with all of these hosts. So we work through all the logistics. They get access to our website. They have we set up their own Facebook group off of an existing Facebook page for kind of sharing events, and we have all the resources and materials to start marketing and spreading the word in their hometowns. And then we actually have a pretty active network now of hosts who support each other, because it is a cooperative movement, and it's not tied to one particular visionary or leader. It really is dependent on the group of hosts to host each other. And that has been happening organically as well, which is quite lovely. So those who get started tap into that host network, and any one of the group of hosts will always attend the first couple of sessions, so that there's somebody there that can mentor you through that kind of introduction. And the act of and the art of hosting is kind of the differentiating factor between just taking a painting class at a for-profit business. You walk in, the instructor is lovely, says good morning, teaches you a thing, and you leave. You might meet the person next to you on either side, but that's kind of it. Life Schoolhouse is very much focused on not necessarily just the learning is kind of a perk. At its core, it requires a host to make sure that people are feeling connected. There's tea in the kitchen, there's slippers by the door, the space is prepped and cleaned, and everyone is welcomed, and we're sitting in circle, and we meet each other, and we have conversations and get to know each other. So that act of hosting is something that needs to be mentored, and is mentored by a number of the hosts themselves in this collaborative network. Yes. Scaling is an interesting concept as well, because again, it was just something we were doing in my living room because I wanted to be active in my alignment with the TRC and its goals. And it wasn't something that we really thought about scaling from the beginning. And I think, as with any business, if you don't think about scaling, you don't tend to do the learning or maybe the evaluation of why certain things are working, and it's a lot harder to go back. So from then it would be to kind of have captured that at the beginning. So we've actually had to engage like developmental evaluators who are doing interviews with our hosts and doing interviews with the participants to go back over the last year and a half and dissect, like, why did this take off the way that it did? We have had no funding support, with the exception of one kind of grant from a local community health board that kind of got our website up and running. This has been run on about $4. So how does that work? How has that been organically successful? And looking back over that, because the other interesting kind of upcoming piece of work is that we've been invited to participate in a gathering in Denmark, in Copenhagen, in September, just a couple months away. And the invite has been linked to the fact that the Danish folk school model has been in practice for 175 years. And they are celebrating that by drawing back to Denmark any spin-offs, any of the children of that model. And the Aniganish movement was inspired by the Danish folk school model. And what they've done in Denmark is that they have bricks and mortar, like institutional folk schools where adults will go and engage in this type of learning with the idea that they will come. They're often sponsored by their employer. They can go for a week or a month or a semester or a year, but it's still very focused on learn what you can, but learn how to human differently, and then come back and engage in your community. It's been entrenched in their social system for 175 years in a way that it hasn't necessarily been here. It was introduced with the Antigonish movement, and it shifted economies. In Cape Breton in particular, it moved people away from company ownership of stores and houses, and it started the cooperative banking movement. And we know that folk schools can make significant impacts economically, but we haven't really been focused on that as much as we have been focused on institutionalizing education over the last 80 some odd years. So this is almost like a reversion back to these practices that we know in our core, we know how to do. We know that it is impactful and is well received here in Nova Scotia. I just didn't expect it to be quite as well received as it was. So when we go to Copenhagen, we are there with a number of people from all over the world, from Bangladesh and States and Uruguay and Australia, and they're all coming back to Denmark to talk about the experience of taking this model that kind of was conceptualized 175 years ago, and just talk about where things have evolved. And our little Barter-based project, we'll be in conversation with folks like Martin Luther King started the Highlander Folk School in the States, and it was the core kind of educational space for the birth of social activism in the civil rights movement. The Highlander Folk School will be coming with us to Denmark. So all of that, those learning opportunities are relevant. We need to start talking about scale now. So if people want to see the model and plug that model into play in Berlin, it's been a conversation about how do we prepare for that, and that's why we've needed to look back over the model over the next or the last 18 months to figure out where those successes come from, so that they can be replicated if people want to borrow the model, pull it out of the commons. We're happy to share it, but we actually have to have something tangible to be able to share with them as we kind of shop this around. That this piece of work, this Life Schoolhouse project, it's a demonstration project for a new economy, right? So what we're saying is that the barter economy will never topple capitalism. It's way too complicated. We've tried that since caveman days. This isn't it. But the gifting economy, the gifts of a gift economy and what it offers communities are often not considered in conversation about alternative economies and ways in which we can just show our appreciation for various contributions in different ways other than money. We want to continue to be a part of that conversation, but appreciative philanthropy is saying to those who hold power and money, philanthropists in community who want their community to be different, who can say things like, if I'm not okay if she's not okay, and to really put their money where their mouth is. That will be the model with which we are going to be able to fund this initiative moving forwards, because those are the that's the redistribution, I think, of wealth that is an active part of the same conversation that a gift economy needs to be a part of a conversation about a new economy, right? So it's really interesting to me to think about a different kind of export. Like, imagine if what Nova Scotia was known for is its care, its caring community, and a learning culture. Like, there will be lots of different types of businesses that we invest to attract, investment in lobstering, investment in, call centers, investment in this, that, the things that are not super long-term sustainable, and yet our people are our resource. And to me, while we're not necessarily looking for money from government, we are looking to the province and our elected officials in particular to say that this is something we partner with, because this is who we are. This is who we want to be known for. This is a package that this is our offering to the world, that we can be known for, being a learning culture and a sharing culture. And to me, that's the world I want my kids to grow up in. So these two boys that I'm raising are growing up thinking this is totally normal. This is just their normal. And as we know, you take what your parents bring you to, and then you take it 10 steps further. I'm fascinated to see with what these little Nova Scotians are going to do with this when it is their turn to kind of take a leadership role. I want that to be represented in my public service. Like I would love for that to be a partnership where we can engage with government in a way that makes sense, to say, these were the values, this is the platform you were elected on because you represent the people of Nova Scotia. And you know what the people of Nova Scotia are really good at doing? Being warm and welcoming. And we just need to remember that this is a part of our culture, and to open that back up again, and to move less from a place of fear, and to show that, it is possible to open up your home. It is possible to invite total strangers into your space, and to have that fill your heart and fill your pantry with so much jam. Let me tell you, my goodness, the barter economy and jam are like hand in hand in Nova Scotia. But like it's about a movement, a transition towards trust and towards resilience and towards a greater sense of interconnectedness in our communities. And with that greater sense of neighborliness, we're much harder to bend or to break. We're just a little bit better off each time that you have a deepening of connections with your neighbors. And again, for that to be something that we invest in the way that Denmark has invested in doing that for 175 years, I think it's time that we learn from that, and that we start. And it's something that we're really good at, so it's not a big jump.